So, today we're going to talk about something that's really at the heart of the entire financial advice industry. It's this one single kind of hidden legal idea that could be costing you and your family tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. And the craziest part? You'd probably never even know it was happening. So, let's get right into it. I want you to just, for a second, picture this. The year is 1978. You're sitting in a big, comfortable chair. Maybe it's made of leather, in a quiet office. And across this big, polished wooden desk, there's a guy in a suit and tie. He's got a nice, reassuring smile, and he's holding a manila folder that has your name on it. He's the expert, right? He's the one who's here to help you navigate the future. You've worked your entire life. You've saved, you've been responsible, and now you're here handing over that nest egg, and you need some advice on how to make it last. The advisor, he speaks in these calm, confident tones. He uses a lot of jargon, a bunch of words that, let's be honest, you don't totally get. But he says his job is to protect you, to look out for you. And you believe him. Why wouldn't you? It's a relationship built on trust. Okay, now let's fast forward to today. You've been with that advisor or someone just like him for decades. You've trusted their advice. But what if I told you that there is something crucial, something fundamental about your investments that your advisor is legally allowed to keep from you? Information that directly affects how much money you have and how much you might be losing without ever realizing it. Now, this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's not a rumor. It's a legal reality baked into the system. And it all boils down to this one tiny distinction that has enormous consequences. It's the difference between a fiduciary duty and something called a suitability standard. Let's really break this down, because this is the whole ballgame. A fiduciary, by law, is legally required to act in your absolute best interest. Period. End of story. If there's a better, cheaper option out there for you, they have to recommend it, even if they make less money from it. Now, on the other hand, most financial advisors operate under what's called the suitability standard. And this means the products they recommend only have to be, suitable for you. Not the best, just appropriate. So here's what that means in the real world. If there are two nearly identical investment funds, but one has a 1.5% fee and the other has a 0.3% fee, your advisor can legally recommend the much more expensive one simply because it pays them a higher commission. As long as it's suitable, it's perfectly legal. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. The person you are trusting with your entire life savings is allowed, by law, to recommend a product that makes them more money, even when they know there's a better, cheaper alternative for you. Now, this doesn't automatically make them a bad person. It just means they're playing by the rules of a game that has a massive conflict of interest built right into its DNA. So you have to ask, how did we get here, right? Was this some kind of grand, sinister plan? Well, not exactly. The system we have today just sort of evolved. It was born out of a massive fundamental change in how we Americans save for retirement. To really get it, we've got to look back. Back in the 60s, retirement was pretty simple for a lot of people. You worked for a company for 30 or 40 years, and then they gave you a pension, a guaranteed check every month for the rest of your life. It was their problem. But then in 1978, a little change to the tax code created something called the 401k. And over the next couple of decades, everything changed. That responsibility, that burden of saving for retirement, it shifted almost completely from the company directly onto your shoulders. It was your money now, and they were your decisions. And this shift created a huge, huge problem. All of a sudden, you had tens of millions of people, teachers, factory workers, nurses, who had never had to think about investing before. Now they were expected to be experts. So what happened? An entire industry just exploded to meet this new demand. And the problem was, the rules that governed this brand new industry, they were often written in a way that protected the advisor's business, not necessarily the client's best interests. And those rules are pretty much the same ones we have today. Okay, so what is the actual real-world cost of all this? Let's stop talking about abstract rules and systems for a second and look at the tangible price that regular people are paying every single day, often without even knowing it. To make this really hit home, let's imagine a woman. We'll call her Margaret. She worked as a nurse in Ohio for 35 years. She wasn't a high flyer, just a disciplined, hardworking person who put money into her 401k with every paycheck. She retired with a little over $300,000. It's not a massive fortune, but it's everything she has. It's the result of a lifetime of work. So Margaret goes to see a financial advisor. He's a nice man, very reassuring. He asks about her grandkids. She trusts him. Now here's what Margaret isn't told.
Her advisor recommends putting $100,000 of her money into a product that has a 5% upfront sales commission. That means $5,000 of her money is gone, poof, on day one, before it's even invested. She also isn't told that the product has a 1.8% annual fee when a nearly identical low-cost fund exists with a 0.3% fee. That little difference, it doesn't just add up. Oh no, it compounds, year after year after year, with absolutely staggering results. Over the course of Margaret's 30-year retirement, that seemingly tiny 1.5% difference in fees could cost her over $150,000. Think about that. That's half of her entire life savings, just eroded away by fees she never knew she could have avoided. And her advisor, he didn't lie to her. He just didn't tell her the whole truth. And the law says he didn't have to. Now, Margaret might be a made-up person for our story, but her situation is devastatingly real for millions. A study by the White House Council of Economic Advisors tried to put a number on this. They estimated that this kind of conflicted advice costs American savers about $17 billion every single year. This isn't money lost to illegal scams or fraud. This is money lost inside the perfectly legal day-to-day operation of the system. So you have to wonder, why do we fall for this? Well, it's not just about the numbers. It's actually much deeper. It's about the biology of trust. There's a fascinating field of neurobiology that shows when we feel a sense of trust with someone, our brains literally let their guard down. A hormone called oxytocin, the same one involved in social bonding, actually puts the brakes on the parts of our brain that are responsible for critical thinking and skepticism. So when we feel like our advisor knows us and likes us and is on our team, we are biologically worse at questioning what they tell us. And the financial industry has spent decades perfecting the art of building that exact kind of trust. And that trust makes it so much easier to sell products that have these hidden incentives. Take annuities, for example. Now, they can be useful tools for some people, but they often come with gigantic sales commissions. We're talking 5, 7, sometimes even 10%. Or another classic example, actively managed mutual funds. They're sold with this big promise of a brilliant manager who's going to beat the market for you. But decades of data show that once you account for their much higher fees, the vast majority of them fail to do that over the long term. So why are they so popular with advisors? Well, follow the money. Those high fees generate high, ongoing commissions for the person who sold it to you. Okay, I know this can all feel pretty overwhelming, maybe even a little infuriating, but here is the really good news. Protecting yourself, it actually starts with something incredibly simple. It all comes down to a single question that cuts through all the noise, all the complexity, and gets right to the heart of everything. Just 4 words. Are you a fiduciary? That's it. That is the entire game. If your advisor says yes, without hesitation, they are legally bound to act in your best interest. If they say no, well, they're telling you they're not. And if they hesitate or they start to give you a long, complicated answer about how they're a fiduciary sometimes, you've just learned something incredibly valuable. And that's because this status, it's not always permanent. An advisor can be a fiduciary for one part of your money, like a retirement account, and then turn around and operate under the suitability standard for another part. They can literally take off their your best interest hat and put on their salesperson hat in the same meeting. It's like changing a jacket. And this flexibility is exactly why the industry has spent millions and millions of dollars lobbying to prevent a stricter universal fiduciary rule from being put in place. They fight to keep the standard that benefits them the most. Thankfully, there's another way. There's a different model out there, and it's called being a fee-only advisor. These professionals work very differently. They do not earn any commissions by selling you products, 0. Instead, you pay them a fee directly, just like you'd pay a lawyer or an accountant for their time and expertise. And what this does is it completely aligns their incentives with yours. Their only job is to give you good advice, because that's what you're paying them for, period. So what can you do right now? Here's your action plan. It's 3 simple steps. First, ask the question directly. Are you a fiduciary? Second, demand total transparency. You have every right to ask exactly how much money they are making from every single recommendation, and you should get that answer in writing. And third, consider getting a second opinion. Talk to a fee-only advisor who works under a completely different incentive structure. Look, this isn't about being distrustful. It's about doing your due diligence with your life savings. At the end of the day, this is about so much more than just money. It's about your future, your independence, your dignity. Trust is a wonderful thing, but trust without information, well, that's just vulnerability. Asking these tough questions isn't a sign of disrespect. It's a sign that you're taking responsibility for your own future. So the next time you sit down to talk about your money, I hope you remember the one question that changes everything.